What's up, gentlemen? This is Rising Phoenix Podcast, a podcast about how to rise up after your divorce. I'm your host, divorce coach Michael Rhodes. Let's get into it. Joining me today is Dr. Diane Dreher. Diane, let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm an author, a researcher, and a positive psychology coach. And I do research on hope and resilience, which we seem to need a lot of in these challenging times.
Yeah, for sure. And like many of my guests, I came across a blog that you wrote on psychologytoday.com. The original topic, we're going to talk about how food can affect your mental state. But after I was looking into some of the other stuff that you wrote, I got really interested in the topic of ambiguous loss. And so I want to talk about that today. And as I do, I like to define things. So let's start with that. What is ambiguous loss?
Okay, ambiguous loss. And I interviewed the psychologist who actually came up with the concept. It's an unclear loss of not knowing. We're thrust into great uncertainty, and that produces high anxiety and confusion, feelings of helplessness, loss of control over our lives. We're constantly on edge because we don't know what to expect.
Wow.
And the pandemic brought us a lot of that, but major life changes also throw us into ambiguous loss.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it fits the description of an unwanted divorce. I think there is so much that it boxes that check through that description about this process. So that's the definition of it. So now I always like to ask, okay, well, what do we do about it? And in your post, you mentioned there's some things that we can do. There's 5 different steps. So let's cover those. What do we do when we have this ambiguous loss? How do we deal with it?
Well, we need to take charge of our lives. We need to convince ourselves that we have a sense of control, because ambiguous loss makes us feel like, we're thrust into great uncertainty and we feel helpless and hopeless, especially if it's an unwanted divorce and a person just leaves us. And all of a sudden, what they've done is pulled the foundation structure out of our lives. Things that we used to do, habits, routines, that person who was there for us, all of that is gone. We've lost not only our relationship, but a lot of couples get together, and very often when someone is divorced, they don't see those friends, those couples anymore either.
True.
They don't go to their favorite restaurants because it doesn't feel quite the same to walk into a restaurant by yourself, right? So
Right.
a lot of the things. We can still go to movies because it's dark, but to sit there and eat by yourself, unless you're traveling or something, that doesn't feel right, and it might bring back a lot of old, unhappy memories. So we need to cultivate community. We lose our support community when we get divorced. Not only the individual, but a lot of the outer rungs of community, the friends, the familiar patterns in our lives. And the US Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, has said that we have an epidemic of loneliness and isolation in the United States anyway, and divorce just makes it a lot worse.
Yeah, I can't argue that. That's spot on. I think the loneliness thing is absolutely true, it's sadly. And I think it's exacerbated for sure when you go through a divorce.
Yeah. Dr. Murthy has found out, he's done all this research, being our Surgeon General. He's supposed to be concerned about our health, and he is. But he says loneliness affects our physical health and our emotional health greatly. So we know that that's a problem. So what can we do? Research in positive psychology has connected the interactions we have with people on a regular basis with our social and emotional well-being. And we need a range of relationships, from close relationships to informal social ties. So what a person can do to try to cultivate community is to, instead of walking, looking down, being depressed. Again, there's also research that shows that our posture influences our mood. so that when we're slumped, which happens a lot when we're slumped down driving our cars, or we're slumped down in front of a computer, or, our screens, we're kind of looking down. We need to look up and look around us. And if we see somebody, another human being, whether this person is a friend, an acquaintance, or the clerk at the grocery store, to make eye contact and smile. Because that simple gesture, according to psychologist Barbara Fredrickson, and who's done a lot of research on that, she calls them micro moments of connectivity. Those brief gestures activate our immune system and raise our sense of mood, our happiness, our hope, for both people involved. That split second makes a big difference. So to start practicing that, and this relieves stress, reduces inflammation, promotes greater physical and psychological well-being. So just informal connections with people. I would encourage people to take a walk, around the neighborhood, or around, during lunch hour, around your workplace if you're not working remotely. And if you are working remotely, so much more good reason to get out of your, your house and away from your electronics and just take a walk. Because walking has been shown, especially walking outside, to help relieve depression. And to stand up straight with a good posture also helps relieve depression. So there are things we can do to connect with our bodies and the people around us. And also, a lot of guys have pick up basketball, or, informal things that they do with other guys.
Sure.
To make it a point to connect with the people that to just go pick up basketball, or, golf, or you go to the driving range or something,
Sure.
To get out with friends, or go to a football game, or get together and watch football together. We've got the 49ers out here in California. They're doing pretty well. So a lot of guys get together and do something. You don't have to have a deep heart-to-heart talk with the guys, but sit and watch a football game together. Make a point to connect, because people, when we're divorced, when we're, lonely, we have been disconnected, and we have to make an effort to reconnect. Just little efforts make a big difference.
Yeah. So I agree 100%. If this is one of the areas where I think men really, really struggle, is this connecting with others. I'm just curious, why do you think that is? Why is it so hard for men to build and maintain friendships?
Oh, Michael, that's an incredibly powerful question. I think we're socialized when we're growing up, that guys are socialized to be strong and athletic, and okay, and women are socialized to be emotional caregivers, to tune into their feelings. So there's research down at UCLA now about stress, that where fight or flight used to be seen as the major stress reactions.
Right.
Well, there's also something called tend and befriend, which women do when they're feeling upset. They get together with their women friends. Guys don't have that habit. Okay. And I have some male friends who, get together with me, and talk about what they're going through in relationships and stuff, because they're more comfortable talking about things like that with a woman friend than with another guy. There's something about, we guys, I grew up in a military family. My father was an Air Force colonel. Guys are supposed to be strong. And that sort of rules out being in touch with our feelings.
Yeah, it's a sad truth, but I think it is a truth. Yeah, we could probably spend all day talking about that one. I've covered it many times. Let's move on to point 2. It's find something you can control. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, ambiguous loss makes us feel out of control. So, and that's very depressing and anxiety producing and everything. So we need to find something that we can control. And that can be just a small thing. A lot of times during the pandemic, when people felt that they couldn't control anything, a lot of people started baking bread. Mm. I mean, that's nice. They couldn't go anywhere, so they stayed in their kitchens. But also watching the bread rise and kneading it and all that. They felt like, and then they got a nice loaf of bread. They felt like they had created something. They'd done something. That helps. When Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years, he couldn't control his living conditions, the food he got, the people around him. He couldn't control much. But what he did manage to do was have a small garden. And he grew tomatoes and onions and squash, and just watching the plants grow, cultivating them, gave him a sense of hope. And also probably improved his diet, and he shared some of the vegetables with the people that he knew. I know former President Jimmy Carter has always worked with wood. And going out to his shop and working on something, hammering away, that would be a way of getting rid of some negative feelings that he may have experienced. And also, he'd end up with something. So refinishing furniture, woodworking, building something, doing something, something that you can do, whatever it is. One of my colleagues was an engineer, and when he'd get really frustrated, he'd paint pictures. And interestingly enough, Winston Churchill, during World War II, when he had a lot of problems to contend with during the Battle of Britain, holding out against the Nazis, what he painted landscape pictures. And he would build things in his garden. And people might have said, well, how do you have time to do those frivolous things when you've got to take care of our country? That helped him because it gave him a sense of control, something he could do with his hands, something he could hold on to and touch. And a lot of guys have hobbies, work on cars, woodworking, whatever. You don't have to paint landscapes like Winston Churchill or grow a garden, but find some little thing that you can control and that you can look forward to. Yeah. It helps us rebuild our sense of control.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's not just, something you can control, but it also sounds like there's a real benefit in finding something that you can sort of see progress with or gain something. It could be going to the gym and you can see the transformation in your body, but it's allows you to focus on sounds like it allows you to focus on something other than what's going on, and focus on the progress and the growth that occurs. I imagine that I mean, I know I did it. I hit the gym like it was my mission in life, for a whole host of reasons, and it definitely was beneficial. It's I think important to have these things that we can. It allows us to take our mind off of it, but also allows us to I think it builds self-esteem too, right? I mean, even if it is gardening or whatever, like you're tending to it, you're creating that in a way, right? And I think that it can help because self-esteem is one thing that definitely takes a nosedive when you're left. And so I think it's not just about doing something or controlling things. I think it's also really beneficial to find things that you can sort of feel good about. Like you can start to feel like you're worth something again. So.
Yeah, in a way, it's investing in ourselves again. When we feel like somebody has abandoned us because we're no good or something, and we have all these negative voices in our heads, to go to the gym. Well, that's great because exercise helps relieve depression, right? Yeah. So there's one thing right there. Yeah. But then also, the more reps we can do, yeah. And you see your muscles, getting stronger. There's a physical kind of affirmation there on a regular basis. I'm getting stronger. Yeah. I care about myself. Yeah. I'm growing. I'm improving, and you see physical evidence of growth trajectory. That really makes a difference. Yeah. So I would with you, encourage people to hit the gym.
Oh yeah.
Or to go running. You know, I know a friend of mine, his relationship dissolved. The person he was with, she left him, not only him, but she moved out of the country, and he felt abandoned. So what did he do? He started walking around the neighborhood, and then he started jogging, and then he started running, and he ended up meeting new friends who were also running around, and they ran marathons together. And he built up his stamina, his hope, and his sense of possibility. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to point 3. This is an interesting one. Balanced change with continuity. Well, let's dive into that. What does that mean?
Okay. Well, with ambiguous loss, change has been thrust upon us, and it's generally an unwelcome change. The rug is pulled out from under us. So there's got to be something that continues in our lives. And Pauline Boss was talking about COVID when I interviewed her, and she was saying, "Oh, there are rituals that make us feel like we're connected to something, to life. Graduations, weddings, celebrations, etc. Probably not the best thing to go to a wedding right after you get rejected.
Yeah.
But to do something that it offers a sense of continuity. And that might be, something that you did before you got together with that person. Getting together with old college buddies, reconnecting to something that you used to do, that you used to enjoy. Reconnecting. I love it when I get in touch with somebody that I knew in college. That was a long time ago, but I still have somebody that knew me then, because that's a way of reconnecting, of having a sense of continuity, that this person is still in my life. This person has known me now for decades, and we're still on the journey together. I mean, we're doing different things. We live in different places, but still, so whatever is continuity for an individual. I mean, for example, did you reconnect or find a sense of continuity in your life when you were getting divorced?
Oh yeah. I mean, I found myself reaching out to old friends that I still kept in touch with thanks to things like Facebook, but I hadn't seen in a while, and I found myself spending time with them, talking to them more. Kind of people that I went to high school with and stuff, and in elementary school in some cases. So yeah, I absolutely did. I think I turned over every stone I could have, because it was a very, very difficult time. And so, and that's one of the things I do teach is, I think it's important to not only, I think, reconnect, but then as you do, I think, and they're helping you through this, I think it's important to acknowledge that and say thank you to them, and because when you're open and vulnerable about what you're going through, I think it does lead to healing. And so it wasn't for me, it's not just about connecting with other folks or reminding myself of who I was before, but also showing that gratitude, because I think it's important to allow ourselves, especially as men, to be vulnerable about how we're feeling and expressing ourselves. I think it only leads to good things, because if you can open up a little bit, then maybe they'll open up, and that can make the bond and the connection a little deeper. And you can know that when you have something significant in life, that you have this person or people that you can lean on. I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, we all need a circle of trust, and with a divorce, that our trust is broken, it's violated. So to rebuild trust and to recognize, I can trust these people, and to gradually open up to them. And that's good for all concerned. What you said about gratitude, well, you're right on course with some of the major research done in positive psychology, that something called the gratitude practice is one of the most successful interventions that can help people find greater hope, raise their mood, overcome depression, believe in life again, and to recognize who we're grateful for, what we're grateful for. Robert Emmons at UC Davis recommends a gratitude practice at the end of each day to think of 3 things you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And people can keep gratitude journals and write them down, or just think of 3 things we're grateful for. Because we have something called the negativity bias.
Oh, yeah. Very familiar.
It's adaptive. I mean, when we were, less civilized, at least materially, and lived in, jungles, we'd be walking in the jungle, right? And you'd look out and see some beautiful flower, and then you'd hear this hissing noise, and which could be a rattlesnake, right? And so we evolved to pay attention to the hissing noise and to stop looking at the beautiful flower, because it could save our lives to be aware of, a threat. Yeah. So we zero in on threats. I live out in California, and I noticed that when there's an accident to the side of the road, everybody seems to look to the side. It's an automatic reaction, which if we don't watch out will cause more accidents because we're not looking where we're going. Yeah. But there's this sense of, I have to react to a threat. I have to find out what's going on to be safe. So that can save our lives in an emergency, but on a regular daily basis, it makes us look at the negative and overlook or become habituated to the positives. So to actually consciously practice gratitude is a way of at least staying even and balanced.
Yeah, it's something I think, I try to practice it, but I think I do. I do it in the morning. I don't do it in the evening so much. I do it every morning. It can be hard to find those things sometimes, especially if you do it I do it every weekday. I don't do it on the weekends. It can be hard sometimes, but it is. I don't know that if I'm being honest, I don't know that it carries me through the day because life happens, right? I could get done with a little gratitude practice and 3 hours from now, I forgot all about it. But I will say that it does help me sort of start the day with a little bit better of a mindset than I otherwise would. But I think it's important because we are negatively biased. That's absolutely true. And there's reason for that, obviously, clearly, and it's been helpful to get us to this point, but it's not so helpful when you're going through something like this because they're already to the forefront of your mind, being left, identity collapse, lifestyle change. I mean, there's so many things, financial, emotional. I mean, there's so many things. So those things are prevalent. Those negative things are right in our face, and so we're already biased anyway. But then that's staring us right in the face. We have to, and it's hard, especially in the beginning. It's damn near impossible in the beginning, but as we get a little further out and we hopefully we work to heal, we have to make the effort to find these positive things and gratitude in whatever way you want to do it, I think is definitely something that we all should strive to focus on. Otherwise, we can get very stuck very quickly in nothing but negativity.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something also in our brains, since we're highly cognitive beings, that we feel like we can solve our problems by thinking about them.
Oh, yeah.
Which leads to an endless cycle of rumination.
Yes.
Which makes people depressed because a lot of problems, especially emotional problems, cannot be solved by thinking about them. When I was in grad school at UCLA, I could write an excellent paper about Hamlet and get an A on it. But if I was trying to analyze a relationship with a real person that I had in my life that didn't make any sense to me, there was no way that I could get an A on that relationship just by thinking about it, analyzing. No.
Yeah. No. It's another, I think men are really good at, I'm sure, I think both genders are good at this, but I think men excel at it because we're fixers by nature, I think, and therefore we and we're not feelers either. So how do we approach this problem? One, it's a problem, so we're going to fix it. How do we fix it? Well, we got to think about it. And while we're thinking about it, we're also not feeling it because we don't like feelings. We're men. We don't like feelings. And so I think a lot of men do this. I say it all the time. You can't outthink an emotional problem. You just can't. We try. I probably try all the time, but it's not possible. So let's move on to point 4, which is be more flexible. let's dive into that. What does that specifically mean? Be more flexible.
Okay. This kind of follows what we were just talking about. To deal with uncertainty, a lot of us don't like uncertainty. We like to know what to expect. And if we have uncertainty, we want to, as you say, we want to fix it. Okay. Yep. We need to develop our tolerance for ambiguity, for novelty, because research has shown that when people have a low tolerance for ambiguity, they perceive uncertainty as a threat. Anything that's uncertain is a threat. And that puts us into, anxiety, depression, helplessness, etc. Sure. So there are things that we can do when we're feeling a sense of uncertainty. Two things, at least, probably a dozen, but one of them is when we're in that sense of uncertainty and we're trying to think our way through a problem and we get stuck in rumination. What that does to us is it keeps us from thinking clearly. Mm-hmm. Because rumination is a stress reaction. Yep. We'll ruminate. We'll try to fix it. We're threatened by the situation. We feel stressed, and we figure, okay, what can I do about it? And the more stressed we are, stress shuts down our immune system, our digestive system, and our higher brain centers. And all we can do is think about, fight or flight, a couple of possibilities. Yep. Or if, we're a woman, maybe go talk to friends. But it narrows our scope of possibilities. We live in a multidimensional universe. And what stress does is it just gives us two alternatives, win or lose, all or nothing, etc. So we need to get ourselves out of that state. What can we do to get out of that state? Go to the gym. Okay. Run, get some aerobic exercise, start clearing out that negativity with increased circulation. Listen to our favorite music, play a musical instrument, do something, or think of something. Think of a time when we were really happy out in nature. Visualize that. Be grateful for it. Practice, long distance gratitude, a grateful memory, and bring it back to the present. But we need to recognize when we are falling into that pit of rumination, being threatened by uncertainty, and figure out a way that works for us to get out of it. And people have different ways to get out of it.
Yeah, so I sort of teach this. It's like being open to trying many different things to find what works for you, and also sometimes what does work one time doesn't work another time. So it's about sort of getting to know yourself, and I think that if there's one thing about divorce, it is an opportunity to get to know yourself, because suddenly you have a lot of free time, alone time, and so it's an opportunity, and so if you take that mindset of, okay, I'm going to try this. I can't sleep, so I'm going to try this. Well, that didn't work. I'm going to try this. Well, that worked a little bit. Okay. And then the next time you try that, it doesn't work. So I think a lot of times we give up pretty quickly when we're faced with this strife and things we're going through. We'll try something. Oh, that doesn't work. And we throw our hands up, and it feeds. That allows it, I think, to feed the narrative that we're messed up, we screwed up, it's our fault that it ended, those types of things. And then we get stuck, but that feeling stuck is a bit comfortable, right? And so we'll try some things, but not kind of half-heartedly, so that we can go back to that story and stay stuck in the negative bias that we all have, right? And and I'm not saying it's easy to get out of this stuff. It's very, very difficult, but I think if you have that mindset of be flexible, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try that, I'm going to try this, and just keep trying to understand yourself just a little bit better, I think is one of the best things that can come of divorce.
Yeah. I have a friend, Catherine Getsky, who developed 5 Keys to Hope. And she developed this because, sadly enough, when she was in her first year as a college student, her father, who was her role model, her mentor, her wonderful parent, also suffered from depression. when she was away at college, planning to go home the next weekend, she got a phone call. He had died by suicide.
Oh, Jesus.
And she was devastated. She was, depressed. She attempted suicide herself sometime later because she felt responsible. She should have been there. And then she realized, okay, she needs to find out how to get beyond that stuck point that leads people down that very negative, journey to want to end their lives. And she found out that her father didn't have stress skills. He didn't know how to recognize when he was, in that stuck place.
Yep.
And then he didn't know what to do about it. So that there are two things that we can do. One of them she found is to simply take 3 deep mindful breaths, which can cut the stress reaction.
Yep.
We all breathe anyway, and we don't need any extra equipment to do that. We don't have to buy anything. Okay.
Nope. That one's free.
And then there are those things that work best for us. Sometimes to go outside and look at the sky, to listen to your favorite music, to call up a friend, to exercise, but to have first of all recognize when we're in that stuck place, and then have a repertoire of what we can do to get out of it. Because she said, had her father known that, had he had those skills, he'd still be here today. And then, she has a number of other ones, but the stress skills are absolutely essential. And we don't learn those skills in school or in our families, or we just don't learn them.
No, it's a sad truth. And I think with women, at least or females, girls, at least that sort of tend and friend, it leads itself a little bit to allowing you to deal with your mental health when things get difficult, right? But as men, we don't have tend and friend. We don't have any emotional skills, I feel like. And so I think that's why 105 men every day in America kill themselves, is because we're not taught it at all ever. And only when faced with some type of crisis are we some of us, not all of us, some of us find a way to get these skills. But it's something severely lacking for all men, for sure.
Yeah. And to just recognize, what we've just said, how does it feel to be stressed and depressed? How does your body feel? How can you recognize that? And then what can you do after you've taken 3 deep breaths?
Yeah.
You're feeling a little more centered now. Then to have your favorite, it's like having your favorite assortment of desserts. What can you choose? What do you feel like doing? What can you put there into your consciousness that will help bring you out of that? Because we have to do that for ourselves. It's and our attitude makes a great deal of difference. One of my all-time heroes, I'd never met him, but is Viktor Frankl, who was imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp, wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and said at one point that our greatest freedom, the one freedom no one can take from us, is the freedom to choose how we respond to any situation that life gives us.
Yeah.
And that we always have a choice.
Agreed. Yeah. That book is on my to read list, which is a very long list, but I know the quote, I know the man, and that's the truth. That's where your power lies, is between, something occurring and then your response. That's where your power is. And it's tough to cultivate, but necessary. Let's speaking of meaning, Viktor Frankl, number 5 is find meaning. This is the big one, I think, very important. But I think I don't know which one is more tricky than the next, or whatever. But this one's pretty tricky, I think, to find meaning. I think can be difficult. So let's dive into that. What do we? How do we do that? Let's start there. How do we find meaning?
Okay. Well, finding meaning can also help us become more flexible, because to reach out for something new, to find new trails to walk, to explore, to realize that this time that we've been given inadvertently and unwillingly, by being rejected by someone, gives us time to explore. And what that might mean, stepping out of our comfort zone, trying something new, taking a class, doing something that we've always been kind of intrigued about. And most community centers have classes on almost everything. Okay. And, to just explore. And if you don't like it, you can stop going. I mean, you're not going to flunk out of school. It's just, try it, try something new. And that can help us become more flexible. That which is new then won't be such a threat to us. Think, I think I'll try, learning Spanish or because out here in California, a lot of words are in Espanol. How can I do that? How can I get together with some people that speak, that are learning Spanish, and maybe, have a conversation group or take a class or something? One way, they have cooking classes too. And if guys are interested in meeting new women, they can. But first of all, they need to make better friends with themselves so they be ready for any new relationship and not just, do the replacement theory.
Oh,
but meaning means different people find meaning in different ways. I was talking to a young man who just got rejected by his significant other. They were thinking he proposed to her, and she didn't like the ring, so she said,
Okay. You dodged the bullet, buddy.
Yeah, right. So he's now no longer with her. And what he's discovered is that there are a lot of young men that he knows who've been through all kinds of things, who are depressed. And what he wants to do now, he's working with a mentor, is that he wants to be a mentor to other young men and to help them through it too. And that's where he finds his meaning, and he looks different. He's more radiant. He's more confident. His posture is different. Before he was kind of like this because he was in an unhealthy relationship that was draining him. Yeah. So he's better off now, and he's going to share what he's discovered with other people. That's one thing. Some people find meaning in working for political causes they believe in, or helping to save the environment. I mean, there are all kinds of things that need to be done out there we can connect with, Yeah,
very true. Yeah, I think it is a challenge. All of this is challenging, right? We had a life and it was a certain way, and now it's sort of thrown into disarray, and to find the energy to do some of these things. It's not easy. It's difficult, but I think it's necessary. And I think finding meaning might be, again, I think it might be one of the more challenging things because, I don't. It's not like it's you can go pick off the menu. I mean, there's I mean, like you gotta just try stuff until something really clicks with you, and that can be daunting. That can be very daunting, but absolutely necessary for me. Obviously, this thing that I do here, this podcast, the support groups that I run, the men that I've had the privilege of working with to help them get through. It's all very, very important to me, and has allowed me to find some meaning. And in some kind of weird way, if it wasn't for the divorce, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing. So I think that's the importance of, once you find something, it allows you to I think, I don't know, not give reason, but like at least it led to something good, right? And I think that is also an important piece that, again, difficult to find, but very important if you can find it. It's helped me to be able to, at times, not all the time, not every day, but at times, to go, well, yeah, that it was really bad, but this is pretty good too. So, yeah.
it makes us see our lives as a journey, and we're not stuck back in the dark place, but that we can take some lessons from that and realize that, what is it? Nietzsche said, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That we can use that as resistance, like lifting weights, to get stronger, to be able then to reach out and to make a contribution to help other people. That's fantastic. And there are lots of different ways to do this. I have another friend who retired from teaching, and he was alone at that point. So he asked himself, okay, what do he did a lot of inner questioning, introspection, and found out that he loves animals, and he also loves music. So he joined a men's choir, and he volunteers at an animal shelter to socialize dogs that are there, so that people will want to come and adopt them.
Sure.
And that's where he finds his meaning with dogs and music. It depends on the person. What resonates with us? Where do we find a sense of connection and hope?
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. We got one more question, the last question, but before we dive into that, I want to just, where can people find you? How do they get in touch if they want to, or what's the best way to reach you?
Okay. I have a website, which is www.dianedreher.com, DIANEDREHER, which has my books. I write a number of self-help books on Eastern philosophy and hope, and also has links to my coaching practice if they would like to work with me on anything. And it has meditations and, guided all kinds of blogs, whatever. So dianedreher.com is a good way to get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So the last question that I ask everybody is, what words of wisdom would you impart to a man who is just starting his divorce journey?
That is something I'd like to repeat all the insights that you had during this podcast, but essentially that there's hope, that you can build yourself up, you can recreate your life, you can be your own best friend, and you can find a future and create a future for yourself. Don't give up on yourself. You're valuable. You have something important to offer. And just take one step at a time and you'll get there.
I love it. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully we can do it again, because there's definitely some more topics that I think would be good to broach, but I really do appreciate you doing this. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Since my separation in July of 2019, I have done an incredible amount of work on myself. I've had many different therapists, life coaches, and went through different programs. I've taken all that I've learned and put it into my own program called Forged by Fire. If you are interested in having me help you navigate your divorce, please hit my website, risingphoenixdivorcecoach.com. I look forward to working with you.